You could be the most attractive woman in the room. But if you overlook these four principles, a man can lose respect for you much faster than you realize. And the surprising part is that these principles have very little to do with beauty, money, or social status. They have everything to do with the way you carry yourself every single day. Let me show you what emotionally mature men actually pay attention to, and why the women who understand this often receive a different level of appreciation, commitment, and respect. Have you ever wondered why some women are taken seriously from the very beginning? Why their words seem to carry more weight, their boundaries are respected, and their presence naturally stands out? It comes down to these four powerful principles. Once you understand them, your entire perspective starts to shift. What if I told you that the way a man responds to you often has less to do with him and much more to do with how you respond to yourself? Well, that idea can feel challenging at first, but there is truth in it. People often mirror the standards you consistently live by, not the standards you occasionally talk about. In this video, we're going to explore four quiet yet powerful principles that can instantly change the way men perceive you. But before we get into them, it's important to understand something. Respect does not begin when he finally texts back, commits, or starts treating you better. It begins the moment you decide that you will no longer accept anything that conflicts with your values. Respect is not something you force out of another person. It is something you naturally inspire through your behavior. And here's the part many people miss. A woman who genuinely values herself teaches others how to treat her without needing to constantly explain it. Stay with me, because what comes next may completely change the way you view your relationships. Maybe you've experienced situations where you gave everything you had and received very little in return. Maybe you've waited and hoped that someone would finally recognize your value. But here's a reality worth remembering. Men notice very quickly when a woman has standards that cannot be manipulated or negotiated away. This isn't about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about reconnecting with a stronger side of yourself that may have been pushed aside for too long. The part of you that trusts herself. The part that doesn't chase validation, doesn't over-explain every decision, and isn't afraid to leave situations that no longer feel right. When you operate from self-respect, you stop looking for permission to be respected, and that changes everything. One of the quickest ways many women lose a man's respect is by explaining themselves far more than necessary. Think about it. When you're constantly justifying your feelings, your decisions, or your boundaries, the hidden message often becomes, please understand me, please approve of me, please don't be upset with me. That energy rarely comes from confidence. It usually comes from fear, fear of rejection, fear of misunderstanding, fear of losing someone important. But here's something powerful. A woman who truly values herself doesn't spend her life proving her worth. She demonstrates it through the way she lives. She leads with actions instead of endless explanations. She doesn't need constant agreement in order to feel secure. She doesn't soften every boundary just to make other people comfortable. And when a man notices that, his perception begins to change. Keep watching, because this next idea is where many people unknowingly give away their power. Men are not usually drawn to women who spend all their energy convincing others that they deserve respect. They are drawn to women who already believe it themselves and live accordingly. That quiet confidence stands out because it is becoming increasingly rare. Imagine saying, "I'm not comfortable with mixed signals," and then calmly standing by that statement. If someone challenges you, you don't need a long speech or a detailed defense. You can simply say, "That's not something I accept," and leave it there. The moment you start over-explaining, you often begin handing away your authority. You move from trusting your own judgment to hoping someone else approves of it. And when people sense that your boundaries can be negotiated, they often stop taking them seriously. This is why staying grounded in your truth matters, even when it creates uncomfortable moments. Many women are so concerned about appearing difficult, rude, or demanding that they repeatedly explain themselves to avoid tension. But respect is not built by being agreeable all the time. Respect is built through authenticity. Real confidence means understanding that not everyone will agree with you, and being perfectly okay with that reality. Your ability to remain steady without excessive words is what makes your presence stronger. It quietly communicates that your value is not dependent on another person's opinion. Sometimes silence says more than 100 explanations ever could. You don't have to fill every pause. You don't have to defend every choice. That calm strength creates a sense of security that people naturally notice. A woman who trusts her own decisions teaches others to trust her as well. You're not standing in a courtroom. You don't need to justify why you expect honesty, loyalty, consistency, or respect. You simply make those standards part of your life and allow your actions to speak for themselves. The right person will understand, and if they don't, you'll be willing to walk away without anger, without drama, and without abandoning yourself in the process. No lectures, no dramatic speeches, just self-respect. If there is one principle that can change the way men respond to you almost immediately, it is this. Stop feeling the need to explain every decision, every boundary, and every feeling. You may be surprised how quickly people begin matching your energy when you stop shrinking yourself just to be understood. Most women sense when something feels wrong long before they admit it. They notice the inconsistency, they feel the distance, they see the confusion. Yet instead of stepping back, they hold on tighter, they keep trying, they wait for a sign. They convince themselves that maybe he'll change, maybe he'll finally understand, maybe everything will somehow fall into place. But deep inside, there is usually a quiet voice that already knows the truth. Walking away is not about punishment. It is not about making someone regret losing you. It is about protecting your peace. When a connection no longer feels mutual, honest, or emotionally safe, staying too long can become a betrayal of your own needs. And the longer you remain in something that clashes with your values, the more you start questioning your own worth. That is where self-doubt begins. That is where your confidence slowly fades. Here is something many people rarely talk about. Real alignment is not built on potential. It is not based on what someone might become one day. It is based on what is happening right now. Is he showing up consistently? Is the effort balanced? Are his actions supporting his words? If not, that answer is already in front of you. Keep watching because the next point may completely change the way you see relationships. Sometimes the thing you need most is not more patience, it is more trust in yourself. Choosing to leave when things are no longer aligned is one of the strongest forms of self-respect. It is quietly saying, I will not stay where I am, not genuinely valued. That kind of strength leaves a lasting impact because it comes from certainty rather than emotion. The moment a woman decides that her peace matters more than her fear of being alone, something powerful happens. She stops chasing tiny pieces of attention. She stops treating confusion as normal. She stops accepting half-hearted effort and calling it love. Men often respect a woman who can leave calmly without arguments, without threats, and without trying to prove a point. When a man sees that you are willing to walk away when your needs are continually ignored, it changes how he views you. He understands that you are not depending on him for your emotional stability. You are standing on your own values, and that is rare. Some women believe that walking away means giving up. In reality, the opposite is true. Giving up is staying somewhere that constantly drains your energy and spirit. Walking away happens when you finally value yourself too much to remain stuck. It happens when you realize that almost right is still not right. Even when it hurts, even when feelings remain, even when leaving is difficult. The longer you stay where your heart never feels settled, the more disconnected you become from the strongest version of yourself. Every time you walk away from something that clearly is not for you, you create room for something that is. Someone who appreciates you fully. Someone who respects you naturally. Someone who does not need endless convincing to treat you well. If something feels off, if clarity is missing, or if peace constantly feels out of reach, do not keep talking yourself into staying. Do not excuse mixed signals. Do not make yourself smaller just to fit into a situation that does not honor who you are. Your standards are not unreasonable. Your inner voice is not a problem that needs to be silenced. It is often guiding you towards something healthier and more aligned. Your boundaries are not too much. The moment you decide to leave for the final time, not from anger but from a place of calm confidence, you may feel your strength return almost immediately. And once you experience that freedom, settling becomes much harder to accept. Now let's talk about another quality that can completely change how men respond to you: emotional independence. This is not about being cold or distant. It is about developing an inner calm that does not get shaken by delayed messages, unclear intentions, or inconsistent behavior. Emotional independence is not closing your heart. It is refusing to hand your power over to every emotion or every person who briefly enters your life. Many women confuse emotional independence with emotional distance, but they are very different things. True emotional balance means caring deeply while still staying connected to yourself. It means being open without becoming needy, present without becoming desperate, loving without losing your identity. And when a woman carries herself this way, people notice, men notice. They notice the difference between someone who reacts to every little thing and someone who remains grounded. If you've ever felt trapped in overthinking, stay with me, because this next insight could be exactly what you need to hear. Men often notice when a woman becomes overly reactive. It shows in the nervous waiting for replies, the endless analysis of text messages, the anxiety that appears whenever things feel uncertain. But that pressure rarely creates a stronger connection. More often, it pushes people away. Now imagine a woman who is emotionally balanced in a healthy way. She observes before reacting. She allows truth to reveal itself over time. She does not chase answers that are not freely given. She does not try to force situations into working. She trusts that genuine alignment will become clear on its own. She understands that if someone is truly right for her, she will not have to convince them to stay. And if they are not right for her, no amount of effort will change that reality. That level of self-control is powerful. It attracts respect because she is no longer performing in hopes of receiving love. She is not changing herself to fit someone else's expectations. She is not attached to fantasies or empty promises. Her confidence comes from within, not from another person's attention. Here is a truth that may hit home. When a man realizes that his inconsistent behavior does not shake your confidence and that you do not need him to define your value, his perspective changes. He sees that you are not easily impressed. He understands that gaining access to your heart requires consistency, honesty, and real effort. Emotional independence creates space. It allows you to think clearly, respond wisely, and see situations for what they truly are. You stop waiting for labels. You start paying attention to actions. And in that calm space, life becomes much easier to understand. Having emotional independence does not mean you stop feeling. You still experience excitement, attraction, love, and hope. The difference is that those feelings no longer control your decisions. You do not let attraction blind you to warning signs. You do not let hope keep you in situations that no longer feel healthy. You do not ignore reality because of potential. When a woman develops this level of emotional balance, she stops forcing outcomes. She stops abandoning her values just to keep someone close. She trusts that what belongs in her life will feel mutual, steady, and peaceful. Everything else becomes background noise, and there is something truly beautiful about that. Emotional independence allows you to leave with grace. No dramatic scenes, no endless arguments, no desperate attempts to be understood. You can simply walk away knowing you honored yourself. That choice does not make you harder to love. It makes you memorable because it reflects genuine self-respect. The right man will not be intimidated by your calm energy. He will appreciate it. He will feel secure knowing that your happiness does not depend entirely on him. He will understand that your presence is a choice, not a demand for attention. So if you have been feeling exhausted from overthinking, caring too much, or carrying emotional weight that was never yours to hold, take this as a reminder. You do not have to chase clarity. You do not have to force connection. You do not have to prove your value. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is trust yourself, stay grounded, and allow the truth to reveal itself. And when you do that, everything begins to change. Emotional independence does not mean you stop caring. It means you care with awareness. It means you understand that not everyone deserves unlimited access to your heart, no matter how attractive, charming, or convincing they may appear. Create a little distance for your peace of mind. Create it so you can clearly see who is truly investing in you and who is only enjoying your attention. Because the moment you stop reacting to every text, every delay, and every mixed signal, you begin reclaiming the energy you have been giving away. There is also an important difference between having boundaries and giving ultimatums, and understanding that difference can completely change the way people respond to you. Ultimatums are usually loud and emotional. Boundaries are calm and steady. Ultimatums try to force another person to change. Boundaries focus on protecting your own peace. A woman with strong self-respect leads with boundaries, not threats. Maybe you've said things like, if you don't commit, I'm leaving, or if you don't change, we're finished. Those statements often come from frustration, disappointment, or fear. They come from trying to pull certainty from someone when deep down you already know where things stand. But here is the problem. If you have to pressure someone just to receive basic respect, consistency, or effort, the foundation is already weak. Stay with me because this next idea is where everything starts to shift. Boundaries do not require dramatic speeches. They do not require arguments. They simply show up through actions. Quiet, consistent, clear. A boundary sounds like, I don't accept inconsistent behavior. Then when inconsistency appears, you step away. No emotional explosions, no endless warnings. Just calm action that matches your values. When someone feels an ultimatum, they often feel trapped. They may pull back, not necessarily because they do not care, but because they feel pushed into a corner. But when they see a woman living by her boundaries, something different happens. Respect grows. They realize she is not trying to control anyone. She is simply clear about what belongs in her life and what does not. That kind of certainty is powerful. It changes the energy of every relationship. Many people rely on ultimatums because they are afraid of wasting time, afraid of being hurt again, afraid of not being chosen. So they try to avoid future pain by demanding change right now, but instead of creating closeness, that pressure often creates resistance. Boundaries work differently. Boundaries allow people to reveal who they truly are. You observe, you pay attention, you stop chasing change, you respond to reality. And if someone's behavior continues to fall below your standards, you quietly move on. That calm decision often leaves a much stronger impression than any argument ever could. More importantly, it protects your peace. You are no longer caught in exhausting emotional battles trying to convince someone of your value. You simply live according to your truth. Anyone who cannot meet you there naturally fades from your path. People often admire those who lead with clarity, because clarity feels strong, it feels secure, it feels real. Most people tolerate confusion because they fear being alone, but when someone meets a woman who refuses to sacrifice her peace for temporary attention, they see her differently. They recognize that she is not being guided by fear, she is being guided by principles. She is not searching for someone to complete her. She is looking for someone who naturally aligns with her life. You do not need to raise your voice to make a point. You do not need to beg for respect. When your boundaries are clear, your actions speak louder than words ever could. You do not need endless warnings to be taken seriously. What matters is knowing what you allow and living according to those standards. So ask yourself something important. What have you been tolerating while calling it patience? What are you still holding on to even though your heart already knows it is time to let go? What would change if you stopped giving warnings and simply started honoring your boundaries? You cannot control another person's choices. You can only decide what has access to your life. The moment your energy says, I will not compete for a place in someone's world, something inside you becomes lighter. You stop forcing, you stop chasing, you stop trying to make things happen. And that is often when the right people begin showing up naturally. They feel secure around your confidence. They feel respected. They feel inspired to meet you with the same level of effort you bring. Lead with boundaries. Let your actions carry the message. Allow anyone who is not aligned to quietly move on. No pressure, no drama, no stress. Now here is where things become truly interesting, because these ideas are not just theories. They create real change in real lives. The women who apply them often discover that self-respect, peace, and healthy love start growing naturally once they begin choosing themselves first. And the stories you're about to hear show exactly what that looks like in practice. Think about one woman. We'll call her Sarah. She used to explain everything, her feelings, her choices, even her silence. She constantly felt the need to defend herself. Whenever a man became distant, she chased conversations, trying to fix misunderstandings and make herself understood. It left her anxious and emotionally exhausted. It felt like she had to earn affection. But when she stopped over-explaining and started observing instead, something changed. She let her actions do the talking. She stopped sending long emotional messages. She stopped trying to force understanding. She simply respected her own boundaries. Almost immediately, the man she was seeing began showing up differently. He became more curious, more attentive, more consistent. The dynamic shifted because she was no longer seeking approval. She had become the chooser, rather than the one waiting to be chosen. Then there was another woman, let's call her Mira. She had been trapped in an undefined relationship for more than a year. He claimed he was not ready for commitment, but acted like a boyfriend whenever it suited him. She kept hoping, kept waiting, kept accepting the confusion. Then one day, she applied the second principle. She quietly walked away. No dramatic ending, no emotional scene, just calm, clear action. Of course he panicked. But this time, she did not return. She simply said, "This no longer feels balanced, and I cannot keep choosing someone who is unsure about me." That one decision changed more than her relationship. It changed her entire life. She did not just release him, she released the version of herself that constantly waited to be picked. And months later, she met someone emotionally available, consistent, and ready for something real. Keep watching because the next story reveals the hidden power of emotional balance. Another woman, Lena, experienced her biggest growth through emotional independence. She used to spiral whenever a message went unanswered. She would replay conversations in her mind, question herself, and lose hours of peace over small uncertainties. But once she learned how to sit with her emotions without letting them control her actions, everything changed. She became calmer, more centered, more secure. The people she dated noticed the difference. One man even told her, "There is something about you that makes me want to become a better version of myself." That is the power of emotional balance. It does not demand, it inspires. Then there was Maya. For years she relied on ultimatums, she pushed for answers, she pressured for commitment. She constantly warned her partner that she would leave if things did not improve. But those methods only created tension. One day she decided to stop making threats and start living her boundaries instead. When her boyfriend disappeared for several days without explanation, she did not react with anger. She did not send emotional messages, she simply became quiet. When he eventually contacted her, she calmly replied, "This is not the type of relationship I want. I wish you the best." That was all. No debate, no drama. A short time later, he returned apologetic and ready to change, but by then she had already moved forward. Her peace was no longer something she was willing to negotiate. These stories show what happens when a woman steps into her strength, not through force but through clarity, not through control but through self-respect. These principles do more than earn respect from others. They help you respect yourself on a deeper level. And once that shift happens, the world often begins responding to you differently. This is not about perfection. It is about awareness. Every small decision that honors your worth becomes a step toward a stronger, calmer, more fulfilled version of yourself. She takes a moment before reacting. She pauses, she reflects, then she responds with purpose. That small pause may seem simple, but it can completely change the outcome of a situation. Whether it is a late reply, a confusing text, or something that stirs frustration inside you, your true strength is found in your ability to remain calm. Choosing not to react immediately does not make you distant or uncaring. It makes you stronger. It gives you control over your emotions, instead of letting your emotions control you. Think about how many situations become worse because people react too quickly. One emotional message, one impulsive decision, one moment of frustration, and suddenly a small issue becomes something much bigger. A woman who values herself understands this. She gives herself space to think. She does not allow every feeling to become an action. That pause creates clarity, and clarity creates power. Another important habit is starting each day connected to your values. Speak them out loud if you need to. Write them down. Keep them where you can see them. Remind yourself every day, I do not chase affection. I do not explain clear boundaries over and over. I do not make myself smaller to gain acceptance. The more you repeat these truths, the more naturally they become part of your identity. This is not about pretending to be confident. It is about practicing confidence until it becomes your normal way of living. Because everything we have talked about in this video is not a strategy or a game, it is a lifestyle. It is a mindset built through repetition and choice. Stay with me because this next part is where many people unknowingly lose their power. The environment around you matters more than most people realize. The people you listen to, the conversations you entertain, and even the content you consume every day all shape the way you see yourself. Take a close look at what surrounds you. Are your friendships helping you feel secure and confident, or are they feeding self-doubt? Are the voices around you encouraging growth or constantly pulling your attention toward comparison and insecurity? The truth is that strong, healthy energy struggles to survive in spaces filled with negativity and confusion. That is why protecting your energy is so important. Treat it as something valuable, because it is. Be selective about what enters your mind. Fill your world with people, ideas, and influences that remind you of your value rather than making you question it. Here is another lesson that can save you a lot of emotional exhaustion. Stop explaining your standards to people who have already decided not to understand them. When you feel the urge to defend yourself, stop for a moment and ask, am I looking to be understood or am I looking to be respected? Those two things are not always the same.